friends and lots of friends, and I am always grateful to be here and be in community because this is my favorite place to be right now. I need Temple Isaiah so much right now. It just feels safe here. And I don't mean safety like physical safety. I mean safety in my heart. The prayer this morning, which I found just a few minutes ago, which just spoke to me so much, says, "Who does not hunger for friendship, understanding, warmth, and love? Let us lend strength to one another and pray for the welfare of this community." That's enough. Amen. So I know Jan has some announcements, and I want to say a couple things too. This Friday is the Meesmore Band Friday night and Supper Club afterwards. So if you are interested in coming to Supper Club with me, shoot me an email and let me know so I have a broad idea of how many people are coming. And if you forget to shoot an email to me, you can still come, but it's just helpful. And we're about to, I'm going to let you know a secret. We're about to roll out a new thing. Are you ready? Another new thing. It's called Shabbat Across Isaiah. And it's going to be the first Friday in March. And that's the Friday that the very beautiful family Shabbat is here with all the kids, and sometimes it's a little nutty. So for adults, we're going to have households that are offering to host Shabbat dinner. And we're going to all get to go have Shabbat dinner with one another and celebrate Shabbat at people's homes. So when the email comes out, probably in the next week, you can sign up to either be a host, and some people have already signed up because we sort of pre-worked on this a little bit. You can sign up to be a host, or you can sign up to be a guest, but you don't get to pick your house. So Rabbi Miller is going to distribute all of us among the people so that we make new friends, and we're not just going over to our best friend's house for Shabbat. Yes. It will be like the home person does probably the main, and then people can bring the sides and whatever. But yes, it's a potluck of sorts. And we will take into account if, we'll need to know if you're gluten-free or dairy-free or kosher or whatever it is. We'll figure all that out. But anyway, I just wanted you to put it on your calendar so that you can mark it and come, because I think it's going to be really fun. I know I'm hosting one, and Jan is unfortunately not, because you're away that weekend, right? March 1st, I think you said you were away. Oh, okay. Well, maybe Jan will host. We'll find out. So, other announcements from Jan, and then we will introduce our wonderful program. Yes. It depends on the house. Because, I only have 8 seats at my dining room table, but some people have 14.
Well, I think that would be a great idea, especially people who are new to the community, because I remember when we first joined, we went to members' homes in Walnut Creek. I remember going to a home in Walnut Creek, and I'm still very good friends with people I met there. So it's a really very important way to have people meet each other and make connections. Well, welcome from me. It's great to see you all, and we've got some new people here today, which is wonderful. I wanted to, actually, Julie Redberg, where's Julie? Julie's over there, and she is going to be joining us next month as our speaker. Julie is an occupational therapist and a dementia specialist, and she's going to be talking about memory loss and aging, what's normal and what's not. So that's going to be Wednesday, the third Wednesday, as usual, on February 21st. And it'll be up here the same, Oneg and Sanctuary. And also, we've got a few people here who came to the Out and About activity last month. It was the Leisure Center. We went on a backstage tour, and we had a great time. And we had some time afterwards to have lunch together. So I invite you to join us on our next activity. It's coming up on Monday, February 5th. So it's not too far away. Joy is the Joy Plummer is the new engagement and programming lady helping down in the office, and she's going to be sending out an email, and it's going to be a chocolate tasting. And that's going to be at Zuni's Candy Store in Lafayette, and the email will come out. Oh, that's right. Yes, you're a very nice guy. And I was talking to someone just now, and they said they received a meal from the Angel Network from him. So he's a really engaged person here at Temple. So there's an option also to have dinner beforehand. So check the email when it comes from Joy and sign up. I'd love to see you. I won't be there because I'll be in Sydney, or I'll be in Australia for the next 2.5 weeks from Monday. So, but I'll be back for Julie's presentation next month. So I'm going to hand it over to Jory now, Jory Carmel. Beg your pardon? 7 p.m. on Monday, February 5th at Zuni's. And here's Joy. She's going to introduce Jennifer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Can you hear me? Okay, our speaker today is Jennifer Rathkus. She founded Efficiency Matters to help all of us conquer our organizing, and our productivity challenges. She's a certified professional organizer, CPO, and she's also a productivity consultant. She's an active member of the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, that's NAPO, and she's helped numerous seniors over the years declutter and downsize. I'll let her tell more about herself, and welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Can everybody hear me okay? We have to really talk right into this. Thank you, Jory, for inviting me here today. I started Efficiency Matters in 2015, and so for about 9 years, I've been helping seniors, helping families, just people that in general struggle with any kind of organization, any kind of organizational challenges. So my goal here today is to share some thoughts and some recommendations about your stuff. Whether or not you're considering moving to a smaller place or you just want to clean house, kind of get ready for what you may need later in the future, which I'll go into that, why that's important. One of the reasons that I'll give you a little bit of it, one of the reasons that is important is because right now, I mean, I can see everybody's super healthy. You guys look like you've got a lot of energy, and that in the experience I've had, a lot of the times that people have had to downsize in a quick hurry, of course, that was never planned. And it's a difficult process on a best day. It's better if you have more time to do it so that you could do it more thoughtfully, slower, ease on into it. So that's the beginning. There are 3 statements that is the most common statements I hear from every one of my clients. One of them is that 90% of my clients have never purged anything. They have been living in their home for 40 years or more. They have no idea what to do with the items that they have. They are overwhelmed and have no idea where to start. And that's where I come in, because I know where to start. Let's see if I can get this down. Too much stuff. So today's topics, I'm going to talk about what is all this stuff, where in the world do I start, how do I sort my stuff, and where will all my treasures go? Follow along with my slideshow. So what is all this stuff and why is it in my house? As we go through the stages of our life, there's a definite accumulation period, and then there's a downsizing period. There's just, you gather children and spouses, furniture, cars, homes, stuff, trips, tchotchkes, and there's a long period where you're loving and enjoying all those things and you need all those things. And I know that my mother never taught me that you need to keep up the maintenance of things that you're no longer using and things that you don't need any longer. And a good example of that is if you had kids or if you've ever changed sizes in your clothing before, letting go of the things that don't fit you anymore. If you kept all of your kids' clothes from the time they were born, that's kind of the visual of it fit then, it doesn't fit now, and it's not going to fit again. So why do you still have it? We keep our things for many different reasons. One of those reasons is that we didn't know we needed a purge, of course, because, I don't know if your parents taught you that, okay, so now when you're done with all this and your kids moved out, or, you're in this stage of your life, you're not in school any longer, so should you keep all of your school accolades and your trophies and things like that? We also typically had room to keep it. And I don't know if anybody's ever heard this before, but almost always you will fill whatever space you have, just naturally. So, and the other reason is delayed decisions. I can't figure out, you go into your garage and you look at all the stuff in there and you're just like, you just go right back in because it's delayed decisions. You don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes, so you just forget about it and you go back in. Unfortunately, what will happen is if anything would happen that you needed health aid or you needed to move to a community or something like this, you don't have the time or the attention span to be able to go through and the physical to be able to go through all those things at that time. So it's always better to do it ahead of time, like I was saying, when you guys feel good now. And you don't want to leave it for somebody else. And that's kind of part of the big push is that it's your sandbox, it's your things, and you don't want to leave that to somebody else. I've worked with many adult children, and some of them are they love their parents to death. They are horrified at the amount of work that they've left for them to do. So I'd say if your kids were rotten, leave it. But if they were really good kids, you may want to leave them a good beginning. Some of the reasons, these are the four most common reasons people do not let go of something. The first reason is it was a gift and it would hurt their feelings if I gave it away. And that's so very common. And what I would say about that, and remember, you're coming from a place right now where you're considering you want to let go of some things. So this isn't just like a day-to-day decision, well, I'm going to get rid of that. It's because there's a reason that you need to let things go. So if it was a gift and you are not using it, consider the fact that the beautiful thing about the gift was at the time it was given to you. It was the person that thought about you. They went shopping and they thought about you and they bought it and they gave it. If you had given somebody a gift and they weren't using it and it was a kind gift but they really didn't want to keep it, would you feel bad if they let it go or they donated it? So that's kind of the reverse thinking of you keeping the things because somebody gave it to you. It's okay. They'd probably say, you know what, that's okay, let it go. If you're not using it, it's good. The gift was because I loved you and I wanted to give you something. The next one is I paid too much money for it. I know I've been there. Again, you're needing to downsize. You need to keep that in mind with all of these answers. You can't go back and get the money. You've already paid for it. You've already lost the money. It's not going to help for you to hold on to it because it's going to keep your guilt too of the fact that you spent so much money on something that you maybe not have ever gotten the use out of. So that's my answer for that one. It's worth too much to donate. It's worth too much to give away. And that is an item that and we'll go into more detail about particular items, but that is maybe an item that you have that it's just too precious that you don't want to donate it to maybe to Goodwill or something like this. And I actually had a story where I had to go up and move my son. He was living in a house and he was in college and he had to move one place to another. What I didn't realize, because he was the third kid, I didn't realize that all the furniture that he had was part of the apartment. It was a furnished apartment. So we had to find furniture for his entire apartment, and we went into a store that was called ARC, A-R-C. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe, this is going to be this is going to be gross stuff. I could not believe the quality of things that we were able to buy in a secondhand store. It wasn't a consignment store. That's a different animal. This was a complete donation store that somebody gives the donation, you go in and you buy it, and it's a lot less money. And so I really saw the other side of a lot of those precious things that it is worth it to donate it to someplace like that, because college kids that don't have any money, or just even people that are starting out. I've got a daughter that got a master's and has a loan, so she decided to work for a nonprofit. So she needs furniture, she has no money yet. So those places can be really good. So even if you think it's too good just to go to donation, it really gets into the hands of somebody that will appreciate it so much for a reasonable price they can afford. Now the other one is I might need it someday. And this was a very different explanation before COVID than it is after COVID, because I go with the 20-20-20 rule. And it is, if you can replace it in 20 minutes, under $20, under 20 miles, let it go. And a lot of that is probably a garage you're looking at with nails and hammers and, all the things. So that's kind of my rule and you wouldn't believe these are the answers of almost 90% of my clients, why they don't let the things go. So these are the things that come up every single time. So they're not really unusual. The other items that we find in our houses are harder to part with because they're memorabilia. Your childhood memorabilia, things that you've inherited from your parents, from your grandparents. You may be the keeper of memorabilia in your home. I feel like that's almost every sibling. One of them is the keeper of the family's history. And they've kept all the family history because none of the other family members want it, or maybe they don't have room to put it in their house. Those are really difficult decisions to make. I mean, there's no easy way around that. But again, keep it in mind what your goal is. You've got to downsize. You're not using it. You're not displaying it. You're not using it. Oftentimes it's in a garage. It's in a box. And also know that those feelings that you feel about those inherited stuff, it's not necessarily about the stuff. It's about the person. And it's about what they represent and the love that you had for them. And if the stuff is gone, then the memory's gone. And that's why it's so hard. It doesn't get any easier for that. There's also other ways that you can keep those kinds of things without keeping the physical item. I have had more adult children make memory books. And I know that seems kind of corny or frivolous, but it is not. Because here's what I'll tell you. It's about your legacy. It's about your parents' legacy that you've inherited all their things. So how does your story of your family continue? It's not going to continue with a storage unit or a garage full of old furniture or old paintings or old, china. It's going to be in a memory book, because have you met Gen Z and the millennials? They don't own anything. Everything they have, they look at on a screen or a book. And that's how your legacy is going to be remembered. It's going to be in a book. And there's a reason we don't have our great-great-grandmother's things anymore, because everything starts and everything ends. And how do you preserve it? And how do you carry your story? I would even say to parents that I'm working with now that are closer to their 50s, it's never too late to start writing your story or taking photographs and keeping things, even doing that for your kids, because they really don't want all those trophies. I mean, most of our kids are some are older, but a lot of them are the millennials, Gen Z. They don't want anything. They want you to keep all their trophies in your garage because you've got the bigger house. They're not necessarily making a lot of money because they really want to travel. They don't really want to work really hard. It's a different generation, and they're just not about stuff. My kids either. My daughter just moved to San Francisco, and I said, I've got a lot of pots and pans. Take whatever you need. She said, I have a pot and I have a pan. Don't need anything. All right, great. And that was true. So I could go into a whole list of things that I find typically in a garage, but I'm guessing probably don't need to go through all those things. Let's talk about where to start. That's the most overwhelming part, is where do you begin with all of this? So the most important thing in my mind is understanding and knowing your goals. Whether or not you're going to be downsizing or you're going to stay right where you are, know what your goal is. Because when you start getting to the nitty-gritty of having to make decision after decision after decision, your goal is going to keep you focused. If you've got a house full of stuff, this is just an example. It's chaotic, you're feeling overwhelmed, but you can't let anything go. You have to decide, do I want my peace of mind and a house that is less cluttered, because then I'll be able to move around my house, I'll feel less overwhelmed, or do I want that object? And that really, there's no easy way around it. It gets down to that. What is your goal? Do you want to park your car in the garage? I love the fact over the last 10 years that we all have cars. I mean, even a cheap brand new car would be $30,000. We park those out in the elements, and all of our crap is in our garage. Stuff that we're holding for our grandkids. Things that are probably safety recalls to begin with. And again, the pictures. When I looked back at pictures of my mother's home and my whole upbringing, my eyes went to the orange shag carpet, everything that was true of that day in my upbringing. It wasn't that I had all the furniture, the things. So the pictures, again, the legacy of how you lived, what your furniture looked like, what your carpet looked like, because that was a thing. So that is, it's really thinking about what your legacy is. So it's a different discussion if you are downsizing than if you are staying put. But if you're just trying to take things down as far as quantity, then that's what I'm talking about. So why start now? Kind of like I've already said, you guys are young. You probably have energy still. A lot of my clients, in the difference in 10 years is all the difference. And they just don't have the energy to go through it, because it's time consuming and it's emotional and it's physical. I am hired probably 9 times out of 10 by the adult children because they can't do it. They've got their own families and they know their parents are mentally and capable of doing it, but they physically can't do all the moving and the boxing and the taking and all those kinds of things. So, all right. So we already talked about the fact that it's not always about you moving. It may just be that you want to simplify things. So making decisions is going to be very, very hard. And if you can do this over a longer period of time, some of my clients, I work with them for a year, 2 hours, once a week, maybe twice a month. And they're able to handle that because we go through little bits at a time, as opposed to, okay, today we're going to do your entire garage. I mean, it's just so overwhelming. And I think with anything, the smaller pieces that you can break it into, the more doable it is. And so the longer time that you have, and hopefully nobody's at a point or gets to a point, because it's always a surprise, that you don't have as much time as you thought and you've got to downsize for whatever reason. Those are some of the most brutal situations I've been in. And my mother was in that brutal situation. She had a fall. She lived in Kansas, and she had to move to assisted living. She wanted to come to California with me, And she had to go through every possession within a 2-week period. And I mean, it nearly killed her. And it was brutal. And I've seen that's happened with several of my clients. So anyway, also where you start is that you talk to your family, you talk to your kids if you have kids, you talk to your friends, and let them know what your goals are and what you're trying to do right now in your life. Because the best case scenario is that your kids or friends or even your synagogue or a church, anything, they may want some of the things you have. I had a lady that had a piano, and it was a beautiful baby grand. She was going to go to assisted living, and she was, she taught her kids on it and her grandkids on this piano, and she was very upset because no one will take pianos anymore. I mean, that's a general statement. And she was, I think, at her synagogue one day and noticed that the piano was out of tune. It was terrible. And she said, is there any chance that you would want a baby grand piano? It's not brand new, but, and they were like, oh my gosh, please. So she gets to come every week and listen to her piano being played. So best case scenario, if there is something that's near and dear to you, you think outside the box of anybody that might want a thing. Okay. I was supposed to do that slide earlier. Why start now? Tell your family and friends. It's a process. Take your time. Know your goals. We covered that. Okay, so how do you sort your stuff? This is a little drier of a conversation than it, and I'll try to keep it as lively as I possibly can. But it is definitely overwhelming, and if you can, you want to put things into categories as much as you can. That's easier said than done. If the idea, I don't know if anybody's heard of Marie Kondo, but she has a way that she organizes where she takes everything of that category and puts it in one place. That works for almost zero of any of the clients I've had. Like all your books. I'll give you a good example because I feel like our generation, your generation, we have a lot of books, which is a sad thing. People don't have the books anymore. All the Kindles and this sort of thing. The books are most likely in 8 different places in your home. I know they are in my home. So to try to gather all the books into one place, it's a little harder to do that physically, mentally, all that. So if you can, so let me back up because this list, there's a reason that I have it in that order, and it's because of the emotional aspect. Everybody could be different emotionally because maybe you're more emotional about books than you are linens or so it's a suggestion and it's based on what I have found with a lot of the clients. So clothes, books, papers, kitchen, bathroom are pretty easy to start to let go of, to make decisions on. And I'll give you an example that will explain the way to sort it without being too dry. So you get it category at a time. I'm going to explain one category of clothing, how I do it, but it could be the same with tools, kitchen items, bathroom items. So instead of taking every item of clothing that you own and starting there, you take one category. And I'll make up an example of cardigan sweaters. And take all your cardigan sweaters out, whether they're in your kid's closet now or the coat closet, and just lay them on the bed. There is a very important aspect about taking it out of its natural habitat. I found this myself. I tested myself on this. You will look at it different if it is not hanging in your closet. So the idea is you put it on your bed or whatever surface you want, and then just put it by color. And let's say I started with 15 white cardigan sweaters. I laid them all out, and this goes so much faster than it sounds like it does. I laid them all out, and I was like, whoa. Okay, that's got pills. That looks like it's from 1920. This is missing buttons. I can't even sew. I'm not going to fix this. So I was able to very quickly make a decision to get rid of 7 of them, which still left me 6. So the 6 that I had, I put back in the, then I hang them back up. And then I'm very well aware of either when I'm shopping, I'm not going to go pick up another white cardigan sweater because I just looked at the 6 I owned and I'm aware of what I have. And so you do it with every category. The book category is helpful if you do it. Well, here's what I did was I went into one room that had books. The most books I had was in the living room because I had a bookcase. I took them all out, which was painful, and I laid them out on a table, my dining room table, and I put them by category. And nothing like crazy. It was like fiction, nonfiction, business books, self-help, things like that. Nothing ridiculous. And I did a walk by, and I was only maybe able to take a dozen of them and go, yeah, I don't need those anymore. And I left them on that dining room table because I knew it would bug me. And so I just walked away, and then I came back in a couple hours later, and I went, you know what? Why am I keeping that one? Why am I keeping this one? So I just kept doing that. It took me a few days, and I was able to whittle it down. And one of the reasons I could whittle it down like that was because I thought about maybe a self-help book. I read the book. I got the information out of the book. I don't need to keep the book. I can keep notes on the book if I wanted. The other reason that I kept all my books is because people know that I'm a reader, and they ask me for recommendations all the time. And also my 3 kids. So I thought, they don't actually ever want to take the book. They just want the recommendations. So this was a little going above and beyond on my part, was a little silly. But so I created a spreadsheet, and I wrote down all the books. And then, of course, I had to rate them. And so I had a list of everything I'd read. I knew what I'd read, and I was able to let almost all of them go. And now when I read a book, I jot it down, whatever that was, in my stupid spreadsheet, and then I let the book go. Because I just don't need all the books. I don't want to dust them. I don't want to clean them. I don't want to organize them. And I feel lighter because I don't have all that stuff. And it's really heavy on your mind, too, to look around of a house just full of stuff. And books are hard. But so that's how I did the book one. Papers, kitchen, bathroom. If you have any questions, it's the same procedure for each item. And if you remember anything about organizing today, it's the acronym SPACE. And I'll tell you what it spells, but whatever you're trying to organize or downsize, if you follow these steps, it will work for everything. I've done it for 10 years. It will work on paper. It works on a closet, and it's called SPACE. And you have to do it in this order. The first thing you do is sort it. So you're going to put like with like, because if you sort out all of your spatulas and you discover, wow, I've got like 12 spatulas, didn't realize it, it's easier to make the decision on the next step, which is purge. You have to know what you have to know what you can let go of. The next one is to assign a space. And that means, like, this is more for if you're trying to organize an area. I do a lot of garages. So if somebody has now sorted their items, they've purged so we know what the quantity is, now we know how much room we need to keep it in. That's the assign it a space. And C is containerize it. And you can't buy, the container purchasing is kind of the most fun about organizing. And you don't start there. You do not start with containers first because you don't know what you have left over and you don't know what size, the quantity that you need. The reason that containers are also very important is because they act as a limiter. And you really want the limiter because I walk into a lot of houses where people overbuy. And they overbuy their cleaning supplies, especially after COVID. They overbuy food. They overbuy paper products because of Costco. They overbuy toothpaste, whatever it is. But remember, there's nothing wrong with that until you're calling an organizer because you're so upset and overwhelmed and you don't like the way your house is. Then that's when I come in and we say, okay, here's the container. When the container is full, do not buy any more snacks. And it seems pretty straightforward, but the container as a limiter really helps. That helps with a drawer. I was speaking to somebody, and they were telling me that they do this to this day, that the drawer is full of shirts, And if there's a new shirt bought, they have to take the shirt off, take it out of the door to make that one fit. That's how you don't end up with more stuff than you know what to do with. So the first sort is going to be what I call the down and dirty, which is the one category at a time. So you're not trying to do an entire household or an entire room. Just go into the room and pick a category. Hopefully it's one that's non-emotional, because like the stuff I was showing you, sentimental photos, heirlooms, memorabilia, and the thing I didn't add on there was holiday items. Holiday items are so emotional because they go back to your childhood. You probably have things from your grandmother, and those are harder to get rid of than china that your grandmother had. So the first one is just get like with like. Get all your spatulas together, get all your cardigans together, figure out what it is. The second one is now you need to go through and make the category decisions. So out of those 7 spatulas or 12 spatulas, which ones am I keeping? I'm going to keep 4. I'm going to let the rest of them go. And so that's when it gets hard. And that's when I work with a lot of clients on just making the decisions, putting the things into the different boxes they're going to go into. Because now that you're at this level where you're making the hard decisions on what's going to go, the next thing is where's it going to go? Where's it going to go? Now that I don't want it, I'm not going to haul it. I mean, I don't want it to go to landfill. And trust me, nobody wants anything to go to landfill ever. And we live in a world now where it's so much easier to recycle, reuse than it ever was before. I mean, that's all we knew was if we were done with it, we trashed it. And we don't have to do that as much anymore. So now you're at your stage where you've got all the stuff that you've put it in a category. Where's it going to go? So you set up boxes and you label them. And you'll have many different boxes because hopefully you do one part and then those boxes go to where they're supposed to go. So you kind of see the progress you're making, which is really important. It's like a list of 25 things. It feels good to start checking off some of those things. When you see the room and the items in the room shrinking, it just feels good and it's motivating to help you. Ooh, that felt good. I'm going to keep going. So you're going to label your boxes. And it's simple. I mean, it's donate, sell, give away to family, friends, keep, which, by the way, doesn't go in a box. It just is kept. And then the recycle, reuse, and the trash. So now what you want to do is you want to really think about donations. And like I said, the story of the piano, whether or not you want to do that kind of research to find out if you have a really memorable piece that you want to go and it's very, very, very special. And that kind of answers to those items that are valuable sentimentally, and they could be valuable also monetarily as well. So those are the 2 different values, of course. Do I really, really love it and it means something because it was with my family, or I paid a lot of money and it's worth a lot of money? So they can be one and the same as well. Where will the treasures go? Family and friends are hopefully or synagogue, where you want it to go first. And then the next things are donating, and then there's consignment. And I'm going to go over donating to charities first, and I'll just talk on it just a little bit. Before COVID and after COVID are 2 different stories. Before COVID, I had 5 charities that would come to any of my clients' homes and be happy to pick up all of their belongings. First of all, they also know that I did not call charities to come pick up things that were not donatable. And that was a very hard conversation with many clients. This is done. This piece of furniture is 75 years old. It wasn't, it's not, you cannot donate this. I mean, it's a hard conversation to have. I can't even have it now with you, right? I mean, it's just like, I don't want to tell you this. I know that you love that, but nobody took care of it, and it's really trash now. So, and then that's what we call recycle. When you are donating things, you have to have permission, for the most part, especially if it's furniture, from the charity first. You can't just drop things off to Goodwill and Salvation Army and places like that. You have to send a picture, and they have to say, yes, we'll take it. And like I said, I think a lot of things that happened during COVID is we all sat in our houses and we went, I hate everything I own, and I'm getting rid of all of it. And then when all the things opened up, everybody gave all their things away. So I don't know that these charities have the capacity, warehouse-wise or whatever, to be able to store all the donations. So just don't be blindsided by the fact that they are going to ask for a photo, possibly if it's furniture. They'll ask you for the size, things like that. I keep calling because I have found a couple of places that will possibly pick up your furniture. There is a place that's a consignment store down in, I think it's in Dublin. So what it is going to be going on the internet and researching at the time, because what my list used to be is no longer my list, because it's almost day to day whether or not they're going to pick something up. And I will tell you, most charities now will not pick it up, which means you bear the cost of getting it to them, which is not I understand that the charities, they don't have the drivers, they don't have the insurance to have the trucks, the things, but at the end of the day, it feels weird to pay to donate your things. And that has been something that I have found over the last almost 4 years now, is that we have had to pay to donate. There's an organization called Make It Home, and it's a wonderful organization. It puts together what they call apartment kits for women in transition, women that have lived on the street, they've been abused. It could have been a man too. And they take donations and they set these people up with apartments, with beds, with kitchen items, with dressers. They will not pick up. A client spent $200 donating all their things to take it to their warehouse. And it just, you get the donation receipt and all this, but it's a weird feeling. So, and then consignment. This is the question that I'm asked a lot. What's my stuff worth? Can I get money for my stuff? And there are several different ways that you can. One of them is an estate sale. I don't know if, I'm guessing everybody knows what an estate sale is. What you need to know about an estate sale is that they have to accept your job. And typically they will need to make $10,000 to $15,000, if not more, before they will even accept your job. So it's not a good solution if you're trying to sell some of your stuff. If you are walking away from a household of items, which means clothes, garage, everything, they will sell in an estate sale. But if you've just got a few pieces of furniture that you want to sell, an estate sale wouldn't be the right way to go. But the way that works is they will come in, they take about a week, they if they're smart, they will wash and clean everything, because their goal is your goal, to get as much money as they can for the item, because they both win. You both win. And so they come in, they clean it all, they stage it all, they price it all, and then estate sale people in this day, they now are online. So not only do you get the benefit of people coming to your house, but these estates are online, which means that if you have a collection of something in Detroit, a person is collecting, they'll buy it. So you have a bigger audience. They typically take, and I'm just throwing out a number, I don't know this for a fact, you have to ask because each one is different. It's usually about a 45 or a 40-60 split. And you'll take 60, they'll take 40. And then most of them will offer to donate everything that didn't sell so that your house is empty when you come. That's worked really well for a lot of my clients that are moving. They've gone to a different community or a smaller home, and they just want all this stuff taken. So if they move first, the estate sale comes in, and then the house is cleared, and it's done. So the other way that you can try to sell is if you have something that you believe to be valuable, and that is going to be, I'm going to throw out 1,000 or more. Everybody's, what's valuable to somebody is going to be different. I mean, you have to figure out what that is. But if it's $1,000 or more, and you actually believe that it is worth it, not because you just paid for it, the first recommendation I have is find out if it was a piece of furniture and there's a cabinet maker, whoever's name that is on that piece of furniture, or if it's a piece of art, the artist's name, or if it's a book and it's a first series, Google that name. If the name comes up when you Google it, the chances are much better that you may be able to get money for it. If the person that, the Velvet Elvis that your grandmother had, but you think it was a collector's item, you can't find anything like that, then, your chances are probably not as good. But if you do, and you find this name comes up, you want to take this to an auction house. I have a relationship with Clars in Berkeley. And this is Clars. It's CLARS. Clars. And they, I can send a photograph of an item to, there's a guy's name, his name is Derek, D-E-R-I-C. And I can send a picture of something to him, and he'll tell me within 10 seconds, yes, no. There's no emotion here. There's no explanation. And I get it. He gets it. I know that either their warehouse is full, or this is the most important thing when you're trying to sell an item. Just because it's valuable and it's worth a lot of money does not mean it's going to sell. It has to be trending for someone else to sell it for you, which is what you're trying to get somebody to do. And if it's not trending, then Clars won't take it. You can't sell it on Facebook. No. Consignment stores won't take it because they need to move the product as fast as they can. So you may have and I had this it was an Italian armoire. It was made and shipped over from Italy. It was, I think, 8 feet tall. And of course, the amount of money they paid for it was staggering. And it was probably worth a lot of money. But nobody would touch it because even if Clars will take it, you have to bear the cost to get it there. So let's say you've got a piano and it's a Steinway and it's worth $10,000. You got to pay the mover to get it there if they will accept it. Now, a case like that, everything's going to be worth it. But if you've got something that's $1,000 and it's a piece of furniture and you've got a mover involved, or even, a different type of person that will transport it for you, I do have a recommendation that I want you guys to write down too for simple moving, and I'll just do that now. I don't know how savvy anybody is with technology, but you can also look up the website. It's an app on your phone, which I hate to even use that word, but it's called Lug, and it's LUGG.com. And what they will do is they will bring one guy in a truck, and let's say you just need to move an armoire over to consignment that's over in San Ramon. That Lug person is on demand, and it works almost like Uber. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Uber, but it's Braun on demand as opposed to a ride on demand. So you set it up, they come out, they pick up your thing, they take it right over there, and that is all you're charged for. A moving company, of course, will charge you a 3-hour minimum, and the truck cost and the lunch, and so this is an on-demand moving service. I've also used this service if a client has purchased something at Home Goods and they can't get it to their house. We call Lug, they pick it up, they take it over there, boom, they're done. So it's a good thing to know. So consignment stores are going to work a lot like auction houses. They will just be much more flexible in what they'll take. So you call the consignment store. You're going to send them pictures. They're going to want to know the measurements, all those things. They'll tell you yes or no, we can take them, and then you have to get the things there, sign a contract with however much they want to take. And there's, the details in the contract will be, if it doesn't sell in 30 days, we lower the price to 20%, whatever that might be. So just read the fine print if you're trying to sell it. There is one other way, that I work with my clients, that we sell things. And we really use it more as a strategy so that we don't have to pay to have something hauled. And it's called Nextdoor. Is anybody here familiar with what Nextdoor app is? Okay, so some of you are. People buy and sell on that, and it's safer. I'm talking general. It's safer than Facebook Marketplace because it's within your zip code. So the chances of it being a legitimate person coming to your door to buy a thing is much higher than, Craigslist or a Facebook Marketplace, which come from anywhere. And I've heard lots of crazy stories. So if you use the Nextdoor app, like anything else, you take photographs, you're going to post it on there, you are going to give all the measurements, and you're going to list a price. You are going to get 20 emails immediately, and about 2 of them will be worth actually answering because they will have a ton of questions that you've already put on there. They don't show up when they say they're going to come over. They'll try to bring the price down. Whatever it might be. So what I typically do is adult children run the Nextdoor for their parents because they have to be, I can't have Nextdoor for somebody in Walnut Creek because I don't live in Walnut Creek, so I don't have access to it. I only have access to the Nextdoor that's in my zip code and like my surrounding zip codes. So you can't hire somebody to do it unless they're with you using your actual phone, which is how they keep it intimate within the neighborhood, which is why it works so well. The other place, of course, is eBay. And there is a formula for eBay to find out what something actually sold for. I've had clients go on there, and the funny story is there's this Princess Diana purple Beanie Baby that has been listed on there for $5,000 for, I think, 20 years. So the thing is, when you have an item and you put the search words in eBay, because of course you're curious, is my thing worth something? And it comes up and there's like, my thing's worth like $8,000. There's a way to filter that down. And I'm going to leave my information up here. And if you send me an email and ask that question, I'll send you the formula of how to get to the bottom of what it sold for. Because that's what you want to know. What did that item or a similar item like that item sell for? And it's $23. The $5,000 Beanie Baby sold for $23. So it can be a little confusing. There's one other estate sale possibility, and I have a brochure up here if you want to take it. It's an estate sale as well, but it's 100% online. This one is for a different type of an estate sale. If you live in a gated community and you're not allowed to have estate sales, or if you don't necessarily have a lot of high-end items, let's say it's more just a whole house full of stuff, Max Sold is a completely online estate sale. They will send out a crew of 3 or 4 people. They will go through everything in your home. They will price it, and then they take a picture of it, and they put it on an online catalog. Your sale goes live online for 2 weeks, and it's goes live on the internet, so it's all over the country. So this is called, and I've got brochures if you guys want to just research it to see what it's about. It's called Max Sold, 100% online. Max Sold. So the way that it works, they bring like 3 or 4 people in, they catalog all your things, they put it online. That online catalog is live for around a 2-week period, and then after the 2 weeks, here's the beauty, is they will collect all the payments. So you are not dealing with money or somebody trying to give you, less money for what you've put it up there for. So after the 2 weeks, everybody's already paid for everything. You can see online exactly what something sold for. And then there's one pickup date, and they come back. the max sold employees come back and they bring the person in one at a time to your home to pick up the item they've purchased. They've got their receipt. It's very clean, very easy. The beautiful part about it is that you are never dealing with the person, which is a big benefit, trust me. So they have a fee for what they charge to have somebody come out and put them on the catalog. That includes the beginning and the end when they come back and the clients pick it up. And it also, there's a percentage they take as a consignment. So that's the other one. And of course, there's always the garage sale, which nobody wants to do, but that is a way that people have done pretty well. But you have to decide what your threshold is the amount of work that you want to put in and for the value coming back. So even something like listing something on Nextdoor, is your threshold $100? Is that what's going to be worth all the time? That all these emails and meeting somebody at the door and the thing, and even if it's Nextdoor, I don't really recommend doing it if you live alone, because it just makes sense not to have a stranger come to your door when you live alone, and maybe you're a little vulnerable because, so you have to keep all those things in mind. So that is that. Well, that's not really. Then the last thing I'll go over with you is the other way to let things go is there are hauling services now that are very green and they're very environmentally friendly. They cost more because it's more work, but there's a company, there's several companies now that will come out, they will haul away your stuff, your junk, because it will go to landfill, but they will also take your donations, and some of them will have a warehouse that they will hold them in. There's one that's out in Oakland, and they have certain charities come in once a month into their warehouse and take anything that they want. They recycle responsibly. They put wood with wood, metal with metal, glass with glass, plastic with plastic. And they charge more because that takes a lot of time to do it, but the idea is that we're leaving a better world to our grandkids going forward because we're doing it responsibly, even though it costs more money. Let me know if anybody has any questions about anything we just talked about. Yeah, absolutely. What do you do when you live with Oscar and Felix? Do you guys remember The Odd Couple? It's very interesting because I have had many clients that I have literally said, I recommend that you get some sort of third-party counselor because this is going to be something that you will fight about all of your life, and it's not going to be worth it. You have to come to some agreement. And that's typically what I do because you will never convince the one that wants all the paper that he doesn't need the paper. Even though you can scan it, you can go paperless and all these things. There are people that want their stuff, but it's so much more than just an argument about I want my stuff. It's psychological, and it's their security blanket to keep the stuff. But then on the other side, it's like, this is making me crazy because all this stuff, and so it's affecting my mental health as well. And you bring a third-party person in that can say, here's how, sometimes that's me, and we go through different solutions. I have both of them there at the same time, and we talk about what is an acceptable solution for both of them because nobody's right or wrong there. I mean, it's true. It's mental health issues for both of you, not just the one that is keeping it all or the one that doesn't want any of it. And I mean, it's also just called marriage, right? So anyway, if anybody has any other questions, go ahead. Craigslist goes along with Facebook Marketplace, and it is the same scare that I have because they come from anywhere. they come from anywhere. You don't know who these people are. Maybe once they know, this is my fear. I don't know this for a fact. This is my fear. That they know your address. They've Googled it. Because do you guys know that you can Google your house address and it will picture your house? So picture somebody that wants to buy your couch for $500. You have to tell them where you live. They're going to Google your house and they're going to go, this guy lives in a gated community and he looks like he lives in a pretty big house. So maybe he's casing you, or she's, I said it was a he. That's sexist. It could be anybody. So there's again, if you live alone, if you don't live alone, maybe bring somebody there. It's just sketchy. And that's my fear about it. That's why I would say use a Nextdoor rather than somebody that can come from anywhere. Hopefully that's answered your question. Go ahead. I love that. So, right. And I have seen that. So she's talking about groups that are coming up more and more. It's called Play It Again Sports. Did I say that right? And right, they will take all your used sports stuff from your kids, or you maybe, because if anybody here had any kids that were in any sports, I'm going to use the example of soccer, because whether you're a boy or girl, everybody played soccer, and that's another sexist statement, sorry. They all played soccer, and we just had one big bin, and every year whoever could fit in those shoes wore those shoes, because you wear them for 5 minutes, and you paid $80 for these kindergarten soccer shoes. And so they have organizations now that will gather, and it's somebody that's volunteering their time. They'll gather that and they'll do like sports drives, and they'll post it in their community, and anybody that has kindergarten soccer shoes will come and donate it. But that reminds me, there are, oh, and it is to a retail store? Where's the retail store located, do you know? Oh, in Pleasant Hill. So there's another place I was going to tell you about too that I forgot to mention. Whether you like Facebook or hate it, there are groups that are on Facebook that are game changers. And I'll give you an example. I have a client who is a weaver, and I mean the old spindles, the old weavers. Everything was by hand. And he was moving, and he wanted to know, can I get anything for my, and I said, well, first of all, tell me, what words would you use? And he said he was a fabric artist or something like this. But I was able to go on to Facebook and search that name, fabric artist, whatever that was, and I joined a Facebook group, and I had a whole community that knew everything about that. So, whether you like or hate Facebook, here's my point. There is a Facebook group that's called Buy Nothing, and then it's your city. So in Lafayette would be buynothinglafayette.org. And you go on there, you can list anything you want to donate, and they also have everything that you may want to buy. And it's all, there's another one that's called Free Cycle. So doing a little bit of, do a little bit of research to see, all the different ways that you can let things go for free, for donating, because they come up with these things all the time. But that was such a good example, because communities that are taking, even if it's a store, we're just taking care of each other more. We're not throwing our stuff away. We're trying to reuse it. And companies like that are just game changers, because your kid, because maybe you don't have $80 for your kindergartner to play soccer, and maybe your kid can't play because but then stores like that, you could buy a brand new pair of soccer shoes, gently used, and then your kid gets to play. So, in the very back. Okay, so her question is, what if you know someone that is, and I think you may be describing somebody that possibly hoards, And in a situation like that, I'm going to be completely honest with you. It has never once worked out, ever, when somebody has called me about someone else. That person, and it's a little bit like somebody being, I hate to say it like this, but being addicted to drugs. You are desperate to help that person. They are going downhill. And you have tried everything. Maybe one of your kids has, dealt with alcohol abuse or something. And you want to do everything. There is not one thing that you can do to help them. And with somebody that, and I have this a lot with adult children. What do I do? What do I do? And what happens is something will happen. And then people get called in because the person will fall. And they'll have to go to a rehab center. They will have to go to a assisted living, and then the family comes in, or the state, the county comes in, if they're living in an apartment. So it gets dealt with. There is no legal way whatsoever for you to help that person. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's like trying to. It's so frustrating. I mean, I've seen adult children with that, but like I said, I'm equating that to somebody that's watched somebody suffer from alcohol or drug abuse. It's so frustrating not to be able to help, but like everything else, everybody has a tolerance level, and they get to that certain point where it's game's over. Sure, go ahead. Oh, thank you. The White Elephant Sale. Yes, that is another terrific. They'll come and get it. Does everybody know about the White Elephant Sale, Oakland Museum? We're out of time. That one, they will come and get. And it's also, you want to get them at the right time of the year because they do get full. It's a great point. Go ahead. There are actually organizers that specialize in that. And they specialize, they're called photo organizers. And they will take all of your photos, your VHS tapes, all those things. But I would probably, I'm thinking the most expensive way possible to do that would be through an organizer. So I would Google that, and I think you're going to be surprised at how many solutions you're going to come up with, because it's a huge need right now because of all of our photos. I have the same photos you guys do. Okay, I think my time's up. Any other last question? Nothing? Okay, thank you so much for letting me speak to you today.